and welcome to the Money Marketing Podcast. I'm Kimberly Dondo, Digital Content Manager. And in this week's Weekend Essay podcast, we have feature writer Amanda Newman Smith asking, is divorce just another financial risk? Take it away, Amanda.
Is divorce just another financial risk? My husband and I celebrate our 15th wedding anniversary next week, so it seems odd to be writing about divorce. But I've been looking at the financial planning side of divorce frequently on the back of no-fault divorce in England and Wales. It has made me think about whether divorce is just another financial risk that married couples should plan for, like death or critical illness, or is it different? I was about 6 when I first became aware of divorce. A friend at school told me she had a blonde dad and a ginger dad, and 2 mums. They were all going on holiday together as one big happy family in the summer. I was baffled and intrigued, as I only had one set of parents. Why did my friend have 2 lots? Nobody else I knew had 2 mums and dads. Even in the reruns of The Brady Bunch, the classic TV series about a blended family of 6 children, there was only one mum and dad. The dad was widowed, but we were never told what had happened to the mum's first husband. The writer apparently wanted her to be divorced, but that was deemed unsuitable for a kids' show when it started in the late 1960s. When I excitedly told my mum about my friend's family setup, she explained. My friend's parents had amicably divorced and had found other partners who got on well. It might have been unusual to holiday together, but I think it was all about easing the kids into the new step-family arrangement. So instead of seeing life after divorce as one family splitting into 2, it was pitched as an extension of one family. Having more people to look after you, take you out to different places and buy you presents doesn't sound too bad when you're only 6. It seems odd to me now as I don't see divorce as something to aspire to, but my younger self found my friend's family arrangement exciting and I was a little envious. I wanted to share that story because it shows divorce doesn't have to be ugly and acrimonious, although I suppose that depends on the nature of the couple's relationship and the reason for the split. I expect it would be difficult to part on good terms if one partner was having an affair, which is why I found the new no-fault divorce laws interesting. I have a relative who got divorced years ago, and having to come up with a reason why the couple wanted out just fanned the flames. This couple had married young, and for a while it worked perfectly. They had a nice flat, 2 kids, a dog, but within 7 years they'd grown up and grown apart. They'd been separated for about a year when they decided to make the split official, as both had new partners by then. The relationship was civil at that point, as they still respected each other as parents, even though they were no longer together. But then the divorce papers dropped through the letterbox like a hand grenade. I can still hear the indignation in my relative's voice upon discovering their ex was making accusations of adultery, suggesting my relative's current relationship had started much earlier than it had. It was particularly upsetting because my relative suspected it was the ex who had been unfaithful towards the end of the marriage. Having to decide between them who would take the blame for the breakdown of their marriage was horrendous, as neither of them wanted to accept that responsibility, and that forced them to blame the other. It set the relationship they had as parents back to square one, which couldn't have been good for the kids. I think in the end they managed to settle on unreasonable behaviour, as most couples did, and rebuild their civility. It was never in the same league as the relationship between my friend's parents, though. Lawyers and financial advisors have told me the new system won't make every divorce a friendly one, and that you can't assume divorcing couples will have better relationships when negotiating a financial settlement. One concern is that if one partner considers themselves wronged by the other, and they can no longer cite that as the reason for the divorce, they might see the financial settlement as a way to make their ex pay, literally, for their behaviour. Willowbrook Lifestyle Financial Planning founder Kerry Griffiths told me that if one partner had an affair, for example, that accountability and closure for the other partner is lost under the new system, perhaps not the ideal ingredients for an amicable divorce. But I can see the new rules making a real difference for couples like my relatives who had found a way forward post-breakup only to blow that apart while trying to satisfy the old rules. I've now written a few articles about the financial planning side of divorce, including one on the potential problem of trying to find crypto assets, and one on whether it is realistic to plan for divorce. As a result, I've started to see merit in treating the risk of divorce as something to consider, if not quite plan for alongside other uncomfortable conversations, like taking out life insurance and critical illness cover. Nobody wants to consider these things, but discomfort doesn't negate the need to address them. You can't take out a protection policy to cover divorce, but there are things people can do just in case to mitigate the impact. Things like ensuring that married couples discuss their finances openly and honestly while the relationship is working well. Even prenuptial or postnuptial agreements have their place. I've been told by lots of family lawyers that they're becoming more popular, and not only among wealthy celebrities. Although these agreements are not legally binding, they do carry weight with judges if they're entered into freely and are fair and reasonable. The aim of the prenup is to avoid more stress at the time of separation. Not only is financial planning sensible ahead of any relationship, but in turn it should make any separation more straightforward and amicable as long as both parties agree to the same terms on separation, says Rachel Murphy, a specialist family lawyer at Excello Law. I completely agree that financial planning is sensible when you're in a relationship. But if my husband had presented me with a prenup before our wedding, our nearest and dearest wouldn't have needed fancy hats and fascinators that summer. It would have rung alarm bells for me, as I'd have questioned Dan's commitment to me and our future together. Surely if you were concerned about the financial implications of divorce before you're married, you shouldn't be getting married in the first place. What seemed even worse to me was hearing from family lawyers that prenups or postnups are often initiated by the parents of a happy couple. Concerned that money they gift or leave to their children as an inheritance may end up moving away from the family bloodline in the event of a divorce, they suggest a prenup to safeguard those assets. I don't come from a very wealthy family, so I accept that not having the burden of generations of family wealth on my shoulders shapes my view of this. It may be a very different situation for those who do need to protect vast amounts of wealth for future generations, and of course they have to do what is best for their families. But if my family or my husband's family wanted to give us money or assets dependent on a prenup or postnup, I'd rather they kept it to themselves or did something else with it. To me, it seems divisive. Even though it will probably be the family acting on legal advice rather than anything personal, it will not endear me to those relatives and will make for a frosty relationship with them in the future.
Join us at Money Marketing Interactive London on the 29th of September. Just go to mmilondon.moneymarketing.co.uk to secure your seat at our industry leading event and hear from notable figures in the industry. See you there.
When I took my marriage vows, my life moved on from me and mine to us and ours. We are joined together as husband and wife, so we come as a package. That's just how it is, regardless of the what-ifs you could list as potential risks to our union. Anyone who wants the ability to airbrush one of us out later can jog on, even if they come bearing gifts. Parents understand this. I've been told that some who have shown interest in prenups or postnups have backed away, preferring to take on the chin whatever the future holds rather than upsetting their child or cause a rift with the spouse. There is something about the potential risk of divorce that makes it unpalatable to plan for in advance. It's not the same as having life covers to protect a mortgage. My husband and I have talked and planned for many risks, hence the little green box of documents on the top of the wardrobe that I've written about in a previous weekend essay. We've even talked about who would look after our children if something happened to both of us, but we've never talked about who would get what if we divorced. Probably the closest we've got to acknowledging the financial risk of divorce is discussing why it was important for me to continue working and paying into my pension after we had children. We never mentioned divorce, but I'd had a few conversations about women's wealth with financial planner Mary Waring, who is well known for her message that a man is not a financial plan. I've been trying to pin down why I see the risk of divorce as different, and I think it's to do with the 3 R's: romance, religion, and responsibility. Marriage has its roots in religion, and even if, like me, you're not religious, it brings a sense of moral responsibility. Hence the writer of the Brady Bunch shying away from Carol Brady's divorce. Unlike death and illness, we see the health of our marriage as totally within our control. So even if the legal system now blames nobody for marital breakdown, if it doesn't work out, it's easy to think we, or our partner, have failed. Victoria Hingston, a partner in the family team at law firm Payne Hicks Beach, told me prenups and postnups are beneficial where partners mutually agree terms that are fair at the time when their relationship is loving. Couples with an agreement are likely to be able to unravel their financial affairs without recourse to the courts, making the process less acrimonious, and their legal costs are more likely to be significantly lower, she says. I can't argue with that, but marriage is not a business deal, so setting out in advance who gets what in the event of failure feels unromantic and insensitive, almost as if you're hedging your bets and intend to move on unscathed. I'm glad my husband and I have taken a different route. I think being open and honest about our finances will serve us well enough.
Thank you, Amanda, for another great Weekend Essay podcast. We hope that you enjoyed it. Please do keep up to date with all our new releases via Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcast from. You can also keep up to date with all our new content published on the Money Marketing website, as well as our print edition Money Marketing magazine, so make sure to subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. See you next time.